I could just transport you right now, just 2 to 3 weeks after stopping smoking, you'd be there thinking, wow, do I really feel this good? Have I really got this much energy, this much confidence, this much concentration? Do I feel this healthy? You see, the reason why this book is so popular and has spread so fast is because it actually works. It actually turns miserable smokers into happy non-smokers that enjoy life infinitely more. You see, there are millions of ex-smokers out there that actually had the audacity to believe that they would never be able to get free. And I know this because I was one of them. But just like me, they have now escaped from this nicotine trap and are now, alongside millions of non-smokers, enjoying life to the full with a quality of life that you probably forgotten even existed. And the best thing about all of this is that you will even enjoy the process of getting free.
Just push the button, man.
Hey, what's up lads and lasses, it's your boy Cap Guy, glad to have you back. You're very welcome on this fourth video where we dive a little deeper into the chapters of this book, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. If you haven't already, check out the first 3 videos on the series of videos that I'm making. And before doing any of that, if you haven't already, please check out my first video that I ever made about this book, which dives a little deeper into my personal story and how I went from smoking 20 cigarettes a day for 8 years and completely stopped after reading this book. Alright guys, let's get started. Okay, so if you've been watching these videos or if you have read the book yourself, you'll remember that Alan Carr touched on the subject of fear in chapter 2 and how sometimes the fear of remaining in a trap is smaller than the fear of being released, and Alan Carr compares that to a long-term prisoner. In chapter 4, however, Alan Carr dives a little deeper into this emotion of fear. He goes on to say that just as the fear of failure can help you achieve success, the fear of success can lead to failure. The success part here, in this case, being stopping smoking. You see, what Alan Carr is saying is that not only do you fear having to go through a terrible traumatic experience in order to be free, be it withdrawal or other things that we've spoken about in previous videos or Alan Carr has spoken about in previous chapters of this book, but he's actually saying that you fear success. Now I know that might sound ridiculous at first. Fearing success? That doesn't even make sense, but it does if you've come to realize that you've been fooled into believing that if you succeed, you will never be able to enjoy a meal ever again. That you'll never enjoy a drink or social occasions ever again. That you will no longer have a crutch to handle stress or a crutch to help you concentrate. And that you will have to resist this temptation for the rest of your life. So once again, it's the fear of a life without cigarettes that keeps you smoking. I get it though, you're probably finding it really difficult to even imagine a life without cigarettes, and that's absolutely fine. In fact, most smokers feel and think that way until they finally succeed in stopping. You see, the thought of a life without cigarettes is frightening, so frightening that that has stopped you from even attempting to stop smoking, or in some cases, re-attempting to stop smoking. But Alan Carr wants you to be absolutely clear in your mind that the panic that you're feeling, the preconceived ideas about smoking that make you nervous and confused are actually caused by the cigarettes themselves, not relieved by them. You know, those thoughts along the lines of, I'd love to be free, but I enjoy it so much. Or I know cigarettes are killing me, but am I really going to be able to cope without them? Or even, is it even possible to be completely free from cigarettes? And is it even the right time? If any of these sayings or things sound familiar, just remember, you never needed cigarettes before you got hooked and addicted to the nicotine. And listen, one of the greatest benefits that you'll receive when you're finally free from cigarettes is that you'll never have to suffer from any of these ever again. This book completely changes your perspective by removing the fear and removing the doubts bit by bit. Indeed, last week we spoke about how this book completely changes your frame of mind, and in doing so, completely removes your desire to smoke. Because you see, when you think about it, non-smokers have been subjected to the same massive brainwashing which we've spoken about in previous videos to smoking than smokers have. But you see, the main difference is that they, as opposed to smokers, have no desire to smoke. And because they haven't been affected by the nicotine addiction, they still know that there's no sense on inflicting the #1 kill a disease on themselves. You see, that is the key thing here to making you a happy non-smoker for the rest of your life. This book concentrates on your desire to smoke. Because if that desire to smoke still remains, you'll keep on suffering that deprivation, that vulnerability, that temptation once you stop, ultimately resulting in the need of willpower to constantly fight against these feelings, and thus introducing a risk of once more getting hooked for the rest of your life. And if you think that's impossible, I totally understand. Trust me, I definitely understand where you're coming from, but please trust Alan Carr when he says that the only reason you find it impossible now is because you have a distorted way of seeing smoking now that you're addicted to them. I mean, think about it. Before you got hooked, you, just like a non-smoker, had no desire to smoke. Alright guys, so just before I end this video, I just wanted to share something that I remember reading in chapter 4 the first time that I read this book, and I found really interesting. It was the way Alan Carr describes society's view on drugs. Now, he actually touched on this in chapter 1 of the book, but I didn't include it in my video just for time's sake. But what he does is he underlines a twisted dichotomy between cigarette smoking and heroin. And the fact that when we think about heroin, we usually think of something that brings misery, that's something that's deadly, that brings degradation. Meanwhile, when we picture smokers, we think of cool individuals who are very social, who live every day to the full. Now, I won't go into too much detail about this because I believe that this subject merits its own video. And although this book does a great job into question the reasons as to why this is the case, I personally believe that things have gotten worse since this book was written with the birth of social media platforms. You see, what Alan Carr does is that he includes a picture of Ronald Reagan, the 40th American president, and he's smiling, he's got a cigarette in his mouth. What this is doing is it's portraying a picture that Ronald Reagan, someone who is looked up to as president of the United States, is happy because he's smoking. And the reason I believe personally that things have gotten worse since this book was written is because nowadays with social media platforms, whether it's Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, we are constantly being bombarded with images of influencers of all ages, or even celebrities, or even athletes taking pictures of themselves smoking, or doing really cool tricks, usually with vapes in this case. And what all these things are doing is they're instilling in our brain that smoking is a social crutch, that smoking is a pleasure. And what this is doing is that we're associating this really perfect, happy lifestyle that we usually tend to see on social media with the fact that these people are smoking. And so we are associating this happy lifestyle and smoking together when in fact they really shouldn't be. So like I said, I don't want to go into this in too much detail, but what I do want to say is that what this book does is it completely removes the illusions from our brain so that, as with heroin, we see the real picture. You see, what this book does is it completely modifies your frame of mind so that when you do stop smoking, you don't feel deprived for not having one, and in fact, you won't want one ever again. On the contrary, you will feel so happy, truly happy, that you have no desire to smoke. Alright lads and lasses, thank you so much for watching this week's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button, both of them together if you can. And if you didn't like this video, but you still want to encourage me to make more videos, thank you. And thank you for pressing that subscribe button and hitting that like button as well, guys, so that more and more people can watch these videos. If you think someone would benefit from this video, maybe a smoker or a non-smoker who can send it on, please do so. Don't hesitate. Share this video to your friends and family. And also, if you haven't already, I really suggest you watch my first video that I ever made about this book, which dives a little deeper into my personal story and how I went from smoking 20 cigarettes a day for 8 years to completely stopping after reading this book and enjoying every single aspect of life in terms of health and much more. Alright guys, thank you so much and God bless you. Ciao.